Shalom. I hope you can hear me. Shalom. Giving all praises to Yahawah Ba'Shem YAHAWASHI. Ba'Shem QADASH. Giving all praises to Yahawah Ba'Shem YAHAWASHI. Ba'Shem QADASH. And this is going to be a lamb back. I'll entitle this video Response to Apologetic Kryptonite for Vocab Malone, Isaiah 63, verses 1 to 6. I'm not going to make this long. Anyway, what I did was I listened to this video. I didn't listen to the whole video. I'm about a good 10 minutes in. So the Spirit jumped on me to do a response to this video. And I suggest you watch the video. Basically, I'm going to say pretty much the same thing. This elder says, Manata Zakba. But what I did was this. I said, let me go to the commentary. You know me, I always go to the commentary. And I always say the same thing about the commentary. They're either hit or miss. So I said, well, let me see what they say. We know exactly what Isaiah 63 is talking about. We know it's a future event. There's no record of the Lord coming back, in an angelic force. The only time we know that Yahawashi came on the earth as Yahawashi is 2,000 years ago. He didn't make visits back and forth. Now he was here in other bodies in different times of history as a man, but he never showed his power, his angelic power, for lack of a better term. Anyway, what I did was I went to the commentary. Like I said, I'm not going to make this long. So normally when I go to the commentary, I go to Cambridge Bible for schools and colleges. But this is the one that really caught my eyes. Ellicott's commentary for English readers. Because of the precepts, and then the precepts right here. The reference scriptures. So now, at first head, I'm just going to read through it. I'm not going to read it straight. I'm going to jump around a little bit. I mainly want to, cover these precepts here, these scriptural references. So it says, on Bozrah, a city of Edom, see on chapter Isaiah 34 and 6. Isaiah 34 and 6, the sword of Yahawah is filled with blood. It is made fat with fatness, and with the blood of lambs and goats, with the fat of the kidneys of rams. For Yahawah hath a sacrifice in Bozrah and a great slaughter in the land of Idumea. Ain't nothing, if you go to Bozrah, ain't nothing happening in Bozrah. All right? That was part of the one of the cities, great cities of the land mass that they call Edom. So when you read Isaiah 34 from the first verse, you read the whole chapter. It goes hand in hand with Isaiah 13, all Isaiah 14, Revelation, most of Revelation, Jeremiah, Joel. These, end-day prophecies, it's all one prophecy, but given to the prophets in different ways. So, this is like I said, this is a commentary on Isaiah 63, right? So I'm at the first verse. First scripture that's referenced here is Isaiah 34 and 6. Read the whole chapter. Now check this out. I looked up the word, I looked at this. With dyed garments. Now this is what it says. Better with bright colored garments The word for dyed means literally sharp, piercing. I'm not going to go into it. I'll take their word for it. Somebody else can go through it. I'll go through it another time. What this means is what Isaiah saw was our Lord dressed up in battle fatigues, for lack of a better term. You know, you dress up for a wedding. There's a certain, in ancient Israel, you dressed up for a wedding. You dress a certain way. There's a certain attitude. And you dress up for war. If you own a farm, you're out there in the field, you're not going to wear wedding garments to work out in the field. You're going to wear garments that, that you can afford to get them dirty or ripped. Then you have mourning garments. When someone dies, you wear mourning garments, which is sackcloth. Now, there's a scene in the Bruce Lee movie Dragon, where Bruce Lee's father died, and he went back to China, and he went to the gravesite, and he had a white, looked like a Hebrew Israelite garment, a long robe, because they were ancient people, the Moabites. He had a long robe, and they were Hebrews. Remember, they were Hebrews. They were Shemitic Hebrew Moabites. He had a long white robe, and over that robe, he had a sackcloth over the robe. So, depending on how a person dressed, you know what he's involved in. Oh, he's getting ready to go to a funeral. He's getting ready to go out there on the field and work on his farm. Oh, he looks like he's getting ready to go get married, or going to a marriage celebration of somebody else. Or you can clothe yourself for war. So what Isaiah saw was the Lord in warlike apparel. It says, with dyed garments, better with bright colored garments. You know what I'm going to do? Let me do this. Let me just go to it. Isaiah 63. Who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Bozrah? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to be saved. That's why his name is YAHAWASHI. He saved, he deliverer. So let me look up the word die. Let me at least pick this word out. So let me look up this word died. And the word is chamataza. Let's see what it means. To be leavened, be sour, to be leavened, to taste something leavened. Let me take that word out. Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. I just want to be fair. However, I want to be fair. Let me just look that word up. Bear with me for a minute. Okay, it is leaven. Of bread made with yeast or other leavening agents. So it is leavened. It says to be embittered, embittered, grieved, meaning angry, embittered, grieved, meaning to be angry, to be cruel, oppressed, to oppress, be ruthless, to be red. You know, red is also associated with someone being mad at you. So now I understand why. Let's come back over here. They said better with dyed garments, meaning he had warlike garments and he was ready for war. Better with bright colored garments. The word for dyed means literally sharp, piercing, sharp, piercing. The mention of Edom as a scene of a judgment which is obviously universal. Isaiah 63 verse 3, Isaiah 63 verse 6, including all the enemies of the word there is Jehovah, should be Yahawah, and Israel. Where can I find a list for the enemies of Israel, of Yasha'Allah? Psalms 83. Who's on the top of the list? Edom. So the Most High gonna get all those nations. That list that he gave in Psalms 83, I believe that was David that gave that list. But Edom is on the top of the list. When did the Lord come down and destroy Edom? This proves that Esau is still around. The Edomites are still around. Vocab Malone. That Israel is a feature common to this prophecy and that of chapter 34, Isaiah 34. Isaiah 63 is a future prophecy. Isaiah 34 is a future prophecy. It is partly accounted for by the embittered relationship between the two people, of which traces are found in past exilic writings. See the notes on chapter 34, Isaiah 34. And partly perhaps by the ancient conception that Yahawah marches from Edom to the succor of his people. Who are his people? Who are the Lord's people? National Israel, according to the flesh. Then can hardly be a reference to anticipated resistance on the part of the Edomites, which the Edomite nation. Okay, so now let's go over here to the Ellicott's commentary for the English readers. The Cambridge Bible for schools and colleges, they're telling you that this is a future judgment, and Isaiah 63 goes hand in hand with Isaiah 34. So it says here in Ellicott's commentary for English readers, it says, who is this that cometh from Edom, which is the land? There is no apparent connection between Isaiah 63, 1-6, and what precedes and follows. They must be dealt with accordingly as a separate section, though not as some critics have suggested by a different writer. To understand the relation of the prophet's mind, we must remember the part with Edom had taken during the history of which Isaiah was cognizant. Perhaps also that which he foresaw. That's what a prophet does. They foresee, see something before it happens. They would take in the period that was to follow. That part had been one of persistent hostility. Now we're going to get into the precepts. They had been allowed with the Tyrenes against Judah. What does Obadiah say? And it's going to mention Obadiah. And had been guilty of ruthless atrocities. Amos 1, verses 9 to 11. Amos 1, verses 9 to 11. I don't think these people know that they're Edomites. Amos 1, 9 to 11. Thus saith Yahweh, for the transgression of Tyrus, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they delivered up the whole captivity to Edom, and remembered not the brotherly covenant. 10th verse. But I will send a fire on the wall of Tyrus, which shall devour the palaces thereof. 11th verse. Thus saith Yahweh, for 3 transgressions of Edom, and for 4 I will not turn away the punishment thereof. Because he did pursue his brother with the sword, and did cast off all pity, and his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever. 12th verse. But I will send a fire upon Teman, which shall devour the palaces of Bozrah. So you're gonna have to pay for what you're doing now and what you did in the past. Okay, so it says they had carried off Jewish, or the Jews, Judah, prisoners as slaves. Obadiah 1, 10 to 11. Let's go to that. Obadiah 1, verses 10 and 11. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. This is yet to happen. And the 2 kingdoms got to come together to do away with the Edomite nation. In the day, 11 verse, in the day that thou stoodest on the other side, and the day that the strangers carried away, these are the Babylonians, captive, his forces, his riches, and foreigners entered into his gates, the Babylonians, and cast lots upon Jerusalem. Even thou, the Edomites, even thou wast one of them. That's why when you jump to the 18th verse, Jacob shall get together with the house of Joseph, and they all mingle themselves with fire. Now, when you look up this word flame, you know what it means. If you ever lived in a house with a fireplace, you got the logs of wood and you burn it up, and you take this how can I say in English, it's a poker, for lack of a better term, and you kind of break the wood up, you kind of push the wood on top of the fire to make the fire bigger. Well, that's what that word flame, as a matter of fact, I'm going to go to it. It says, and the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and I believe the word there is ash. And the house of Jacob, which represent the kingdom of Judah, shall be a fire. The word there is what? Ash, which means fire. And the house of Joseph, which is the kingdom of Israel, shall be what? A flame. Now let's see if we can find that. The word there is lahabah, which you get the word lahab, lahab, flame. Here it is right here. The root word is lahab, and meaning the same. Now I'm gonna show you that it's that pointer. I can't think of the actual word, but it's like a spear. It says flame, tip of weapon, point, or I said pointer, head of spear. So Jacob is going to be the fire. And the northern kingdom, Joseph, is going to be the ones that take that poker and poke it in so the fire don't go out. And that's all parabolic. And it says that Esau is going to be for stubble. And the house of Jacob for fire, and the house of Joseph for a flame. And the house of Esau, meaning the whole nation of Esau, for stubble. What does stubble mean? Quash. Stubble, chaff. When you burn wood, it becomes stubble. It becomes chaff, and the wind blows it away. This is all poetic for you being done away with. Esau. So I just read Obadiah 1 verses 10 and 11. Then I jumped to 18. They had been allies of the Assyrian invaders. Psalms 83 and 6. And had smitten Judah. Now you notice it said smitten Judah and not Israel. In the days of Ahaz, 2 Chronicles 28 verse 17, which I'm not going to read. If we think of the prophet as seeing in spirit the working of the old enmity at a latter period. So you got to pay for what you did in the past. Ecclesiastes 3 verse 15. We may extend the introduction to their exaltation at the capture of Jerusalem, Psalms 137 and 7. Lamentation 4 verse 21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwelleth in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through to you. You shall be drunken and shall make yourself naked. Matter of fact, let me go to that. Lamentation 4. (22nd verse). The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. When it says, O daughter in the singular, it's talking about the Israelite men, the Israelite women, the Israelite children. Zion means a monument. To Zion, it means, you look at this thing, this plaque, this statue, whatever, this trophy, and it reminds you of something. So wherever before the Lord in the spiritual realm, he will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. So Edom is in power right now. Edom's getting ready to be put out of power, and Jacob is going to fulfill that slot. They're going to be in the power seat. So when Vocab makes a statement that the Edomites are done away with, the last Edomite you read about in the scriptures is Herod. Well, you had the sons of Herod. You had a dynasty of the Herodians. What was I going to say? You made the statement on when you did that presentation. We don't know. I believe you said it was kind of muffled. We don't know where they are or where they went. They didn't just disappear. Remember, during the time period of 70 AD, I use that date is really from 66. From that, going back and forth with the Romans and the kingdom of Judah goes back to Nero, in which he was on the scene in 66. So from the time of Nero to the time of the four emperors, Galba, Arthur, Gabo, Arthur, Galba, Vitellius, Vespasian, then his son, Titus. He was the one that led the charge to come against the kingdom of Judah. And there you go. That's history in a nutshell. And while they were fighting, you had actual Edomites, blood descendants of Edomites that were fighting side by side with Jake. Because believe it or not, and we don't really teach it that much, but you had Edomites out there that was trying to get in the kingdom. They were trying to get on the good side of the Most High. And I told this story many a times that the Romans came against the kingdom of Judah. At the same time, it was the Herodian dynasty. They had their own army, which are called, I believe it's Herod's men of war, which is an army. So you had Edomites fighting against other Edomites fighting on the side of the kingdom of Judah because they wanted to get in the kingdom. But guess what? At the end of the day, John Henry, is his name John Henry? John Brown, if he's an Edomite, he's going into captivity. But he fought with his sons to the death for Jake. Now, could he be an Israelite? Hey, in a way, I hope he is, because of the great act that he did. Even Malcolm X spoke highly of that man and his sons. But you had Edomites fighting side by side with Jews. So what happened to all those Edomites? What if all the Herodians just died off? They all got sick and died. They ate a meal and they all got poisoned. The Caesar poisoned them at that time. What about the Herodian dynasty? What about their men of war? What about their personal army? Those guys had to be Edomites. You ain't gonna have Jakes, although you had Jakes being Uncle Tom's. But them men of war that he had to be Edomites. And those Romans, those were Edomites. So you can't get around this history, man. Let me read a little bit more and then I'm gonna close. All right, 2 Chronicles 28, verse 17, which I'm not going to read. Lamentation, Psalms 137, verse 7. Lamentation 4, 21 and 22, I just read. It said, the memory of these things sank deep into the nation, and the first words of the last of the prophets, which is Malachi, the last of the prophets, echo the old hatred. Malachi 1, verses 2 to 4. Really, Malachi 1, the whole chapter, which is a short chapter. In the latter days, we're in the latter days, Judaism or the Israelites were rabbis uttered their curses against the oppressors, Edom was substituted. I didn't know they were going to say that. It says, in the latter days of Judaism, or the Israelites, were rabbis uttered their curses against their oppressors. Edom was substituted for Rome. Why was it substituted for Rome? Because the Edomites just changed their name. They started calling themselves Romans after Romulus. The original Roman kingdom was ruled by the sons of Japheth, and Esau pushed their way up in there. So these so-called small hat scholars, they say that. Look it up. Do the history. I did videos on it in the past. That the Romans, the Roman Empire, the rulers of the Roman Empire, the Roman people, which are Edomites, are descendants of the Edomites. It says, as St. John, which is the Apostle John, substitutes Babylon, Isaiah 18:2. Do they know that Babylon is America? Isaiah, possibly starting from the memory of some recent outrage in the reign of Hezekiah, and taking Edom as the representative of all the nearer hereditary enemies of Israel into an ecstasy of jubilation, and sees on the hell he talking about, and sees the conquering king returning from his work of vengeance. The form is that of a warrior. The form that the Lord is going to come back in is as a warrior. Let me mark that. Because what does it say right here? On Bozrah, a city of Edom. See Isaiah 34, verse 6, really the whole chapter, with dyed garments. Better with bright colored garments. The word for dyed means literally sharp or piercing. What does it say right here? And sees the conquering king, YAHAWASHI, returning from his work of vengeance. The form is that of a warrior. He had warlike apparel on him. He came for war. He had his war garments on. Let me hear your war cry. Work on it, inside joke. Coming from the Idumean, they spelled that kind of wrong. Idumean, or it should be Idumean. Bozrah, as distinct from that in the, what is this at? I can't even hardly see this. Bear with me for a minute. Horan, Jeremiah 48, verse 24. Jeremiah 48, verse 24. Okay, I mentioned Bozrah. As a matter of fact, let me do it this way. Jeremiah 48, I can't see the letters too good. Jeremiah 48, verse 24. Jeremiah 49 is a future prophecy. And upon Keroth, and upon Bozrah, major city of Edom, and upon all the cities of the land of Moab, far and near. Because we're not just going to get Esau, we're going to get all of the nations, neighboring nations. It says in bright red garments, and the color, as in Revelation 19. Ooh, as a Revelation 19 and 13. So guess what? They know, these scholars know that Isaiah 63 is going to take place as a fulfillment that's also found in Isaiah 34, Revelation 19. So let's read this precept. Revelation, matter of fact, Revelation, Black Christ will slay, inside joke. Y'all be cracking up if you understand that joke. Revelation 19 and 13. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood. Isaiah 63. And his meaning, he wore like apparel because he's getting ready to shed blood. Remember the movie Gladiator? What the guy said, somebody had painted something with red. So the guy, the big built guy with the German accent, he said red. He said, that's, what did he say? Did he say that was the color of the gods? And the gods like to do war. Yeah, red is a warlike color. 13 verse. Revelation 19 verse 13. And he was clothed with his vesture, a garment dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of the Most High. And the armies which were in heaven follow him, which are the angels led by Michael, Revelation 12, upon white horses, meaning they were in ships, clothes in fine linen, white and clean, and out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations. Number one nation on the list are who? The Edomites. Go back to Psalm 83, Vocab Malone. And he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and we're going to rule them with a rod of iron. Revelation chapter 2, verse, you can start at like 25, 26. And he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of the almighty power. 16. And he hath on his vesture and on his thigh. Now he's some simple nigga. See, he had a tattoo on his thigh. No, nigga. He had a garment covering him. And he had, in a vision, you had to wear, the priest wore trousers, man. He ain't had no tattoo on him. How long must we suffer thee, thou fool? And he had 16 verse, Revelation 19 and 16. I'm almost done. It said, and he hath on his vesture, his garment, Isaiah 63 says, war like apparel, sharpness, fierceness, dressed to kill, dressed to do war. And on his thigh, a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Malak shall Malak, Malakyam shall Malakyam, Wa Adawan Yum, Adawan Yum, Adawan Ya shall Adawan Yum. Malak shall Malak Yum, Wa Adawan Ya shall Adawan Yum. King of Kings, King of Kings and Lords, Lord of Lords. Anyway, I think I said enough. With that, I'm going to say shalom.